The wind carried the smell of ash. For years, the land had been scarred by war, villages burned, fields turned to dust, rivers stained red. And now, as Arman rode his weary horse down the broken road, he felt the silence press against his chest like a weight. He had fought many battles. He had slain enemies and seen his own brothers fall. His armor was dented, his sword dull, and his heart heavier than any weapon he carried. He thought he had returned home to peace, but peace was not waiting for him. The village at the edge of the valley was gone. Huts lay in ruins, the wells stood dry. Doors swung open with no one behind them. Not a single voice, not even the cry of a child, rose to greet him. Arman dismounted, his boots crunching against broken stone. "Hello," he called out, his deep voice echoing through the emptiness. Only the wind answered. A shiver ran down his spine. The warrior who had faced blood and steel on countless battlefields now felt a fear he could not name. And then he saw it. At the far end of the valley, rising from the mist like a shadow carved against the mountains, stood a fortress. Its walls were jagged, scarred by fire. Its gates hung broken, yet still stood tall as though defying time. Arman had heard whispers of this place. Soldiers told stories of the fortress in hushed voices around campfires. They called it cursed, haunted by the souls of warriors who had fallen in unjust battles. It was said that on quiet nights, you could hear the clash of swords ringing from within, though no living man had stepped inside for generations. Arman clenched his fists. He had not come searching for ghosts. He wanted answers. Where were his people? Why was his home empty? Perhaps the fortress held those answers. He tied his horse to a post, though the beast snorted nervously, tugging at the rope as if to flee. Arman's hand rested on the hilt of his sword. His breath clouded in the cold air. He walked forward. The path to the fortress was overgrown, the stones cracked and covered in moss. The silence grew heavier with each step, broken only by the faint rustle of unseen movement in the grass. As he neared the gates, a sound echoed faintly. Clang, clang, clang. Now the sound was swords colliding. He froze, his eyes narrowed. It could not be. No soldiers lived here, no armies remained. Yet the sound was real, sharp, echoing across the valley. He stepped closer. Clang, clang, clang. Now the noise was louder, joined by the low cries of men locked in battle. He could hear heavy breathing, the crash of shields, the thud of bodies falling. But the gates were empty. No soldiers stood there. No men fought. Only the echoes of a war long gone. Arman's hand tightened on his sword hilt. "This is no trick of the wind," he muttered. Inside the fortress, shadows danced along the broken walls. The air was colder than outside, carrying the metallic tang of blood, though none was fresh. Broken shields lay scattered across the ground. Rusted helmets rested against stones. And in the center of the courtyard, a single sword stood upright, buried deep into the earth. It pulsed faintly with a dim red glow. Arman felt his chest tighten. Something about that blade called to him. As he stepped forward, the air grew heavier. He could hear whispers now, soft but urgent. "You should not have come." Arman spun, his sword half drawn. No one was there. The whispers came again, this time from behind him. "Turn back or join us." His heart pounded. His instinct screamed for him to leave, but his pride as a warrior chained his feet to the ground. Slowly, he turned back to the glowing sword. Every step toward it made the whispers louder. Every breath grew colder. His own reflection in his dented armor seemed to blur, as though something else was looking back at him. He reached out his hand. The moment his fingers brushed the hilt, the courtyard erupted with sound. Screams, battle cries, the clash of thousands of swords. The fortress was no longer silent, it was alive. Arman stumbled back, his sword drawn now, his eyes wide. Shadows rose from the ground, warriors in broken armor, their faces pale and hollow, their eyes burning with ghostly fire. They clutched weapons, their bodies twisted with rage and pain. One stepped forward, pointing its sword at him. "You have returned." Arman froze, his breath sharp. I seek the truth," he said, his voice steadier than he felt. The spirit's hollow gaze pierced through him. "Then you shall bleed for it." The fortress gate slammed shut behind him with a thunderous crash. Arman spun, running toward them, but the gates would not move. His fist pounded against the wood, but it was like striking stone. The whispers became screams, the spirit circling closer. And then a single voice rose above the rest. A voice so cold it cut through the clamor. "You should not have returned." The shadows rushed forward, and the cursed fortress claimed him.